The warning lights flashed red across the cockpit of the Star Hauler as Tom Miller fought with the controls. His small cargo ship shuddered violently, dropping out of faster-than-light travel without warning. The sudden stop nearly threw him from his pilot's seat. "Come on, baby, don't do this to me," Tom muttered, his fingers dancing across the control panel. The ship's engine made an awful whining noise that no spacecraft engine should ever make. The sound reminded him of a dying cat he once heard back on Earth. The navigation system showed a habitable planet nearby. A stroke of luck in this barely mapped section of space. Tom had no choice. With the engine failing and life support systems running on backup power, he needed to land fast. As the Star Hauler entered the planet's atmosphere, Tom noticed its strange beauty. The world below showed various shades of green, from emerald oceans to forests that seemed to shimmer like jade. Even the clouds had a slight greenish tint. "At least it's pretty," he said to himself, "and the air is breathable according to the sensors. Could have been worse." The landing wasn't gentle. The ship bounced twice on a grassy field before coming to rest near what looked like a settlement. Tom checked his emergency beacon, dead like most of his other systems. He grabbed his survival kit and emergency translator, then headed for the exit. The air outside smelled sweet, like fresh-cut grass mixed with honey. Tom had barely taken 5 steps when he saw them coming. His jaw dropped. A group of tall, green-skinned humanoids approached him. They walked with grace and confidence, their height averaging around 7 feet. Their skin had different shades of green, like the planet itself, and their hair looked like flowing silver threads. The most striking thing was that they were all female, or at least appeared female by human standards. Leading them was the tallest one, wearing what looked like ceremonial armor made from some kind of crystal. Behind her walked another figure who caught Tom's attention immediately. She was slightly shorter than the others, with bright, curious eyes that reminded him of Earth's emeralds. The translator in Tom's hand peeped as it connected to their communication frequencies. The leader spoke first, her voice carrying authority. "I am High Chieftain Crystal Mountain, leader of this colony. You have landed in our sacred gathering grounds." Tom bowed slightly, hoping it was the right gesture. "I apologize for the intrusion, High Chieftain. My ship suffered an unexpected failure. I'm Tom Miller, a freight pilot from Earth." The younger one stepped forward, her eyes sparkling with interest. "A human. Father spoke of your kind." She turned to the High Chieftain. "Mother, this must be fate." Tom noticed how the others reacted to the young woman's words, a mixture of respect and nervousness. The translator provided her name as Rose, apparently named after Earth flowers she had studied. The High Chieftain looked at her daughter, then back at Tom. "Indeed, your arrival is most fortunate. My daughter, Rose Morning Light, has reached the age of choosing. She requires a mate of intelligence and capability." "I'm sorry," Tom said, feeling confused. "I don't understand. I just need some help with my ship's repairs." Rose stepped closer, standing directly in front of him. Despite being 2 feet taller, she managed to make the gesture seem almost shy. "I choose this human as my intended mate," she announced formally. The other women gasped. Tom felt his heart skip a beat. "Now, wait a minute." The High Chieftain's expression turned serious. "You should feel honored. My daughter is first in line to lead our people. However, you should also know that refusing a noble's marriage proposal is considered a grave insult to our culture." She paused, letting her next words hang heavy in the air. "Such an insult is punishable by death." Tom looked at his broken ship, then at the group of tall, green-skinned women, and finally at Rose, who watched him with those fascinating emerald eyes. He had gotten out of tough situations before, but this one was definitely going in his top 10. "Well," he said quietly to himself, "this is definitely not how I expected my delivery run to go." Tom sat in what his hosts called the guest chamber, though he wasn't sure if he was more guest or prisoner. The room was beautiful, with walls that seemed to grow from living crystal, but the 2 tall guards outside his door suggested he shouldn't wander freely. A soft chime announced Rose's arrival. She ducked through the doorway, carrying what looked like a glowing tablet. Even sitting down, she towered over him. "I brought information about our customs," she said, her translator making her voice sound musical. "I thought you might want to understand our ways better." Tom crossed his arms. "How about explaining why your people think it's okay to threaten death over a marriage proposal?" Rose's green skin darkened slightly. He realized she was blushing. "It's complicated. In our society, males are—" She paused, searching for the right words, "not known for their intelligence. They're kept in special areas, used only for breeding when needed." Tom's eyes widened. "So that's why I haven't seen any male aliens around here." "Correct. But humans are different." Rose's eyes lit up with excitement. "We've studied your species from afar. You're intelligent, adaptable, and your males can actually think and solve problems." "Thanks. I think," Tom said dryly. "But that doesn't explain why you chose me specifically." Rose looked away, fidgeting with her tablet. "Well, about your ship's engine failure." Tom sat up straighter. "What about it?" "I might have arranged it." Her statement came out as a question. "I've been watching your cargo routes for the past 3 cycles. Our technology can create temporary engine malfunctions from a distance." Tom jumped to his feet. "You sabotaged my ship. Do you know how dangerous that was? I could have died." "Our calculations were perfect." Rose protested. "We made sure you'd have enough power to land safely. I needed to find a human mate, and you seemed perfect, brave, resourceful, and—" She paused again, her skin darkening more, "attractive by our standards." Tom ran his hands through his hair in frustration. "This is crazy. How long do I have to decide?" 7 planetary cycles, Rose answered. "About equivalent to your Earth weeks. After that, tradition demands an answer." She hesitated. "I know this isn't ideal, but I chose you for more reasons than you realize." Before Tom could ask what she meant, the door chimed again. A shorter green-skinned woman entered, carrying what looked like food. "Your evening meal," she said, placing the tray down. "I'm Leaf, Rose's personal assistant, and if I may say, you're causing quite a stir in the colony." Tom looked at the food. Strange purple fruits and what appeared to be some kind of blue meat. "How so?" Leaf smiled. "You're the first outsider to ever receive a noble's proposal. Some are scandalized, others are fascinated. The males in the breeding quarters are especially interested." "The males?" Tom asked, picking up what he hoped was a safe piece of fruit. "They think you might help change things," Rose explained. "Your presence here, it's already making people question our traditions." Tom bit into the fruit. It tasted like a mix of strawberry and mint. "So I'm not just a potential husband, I'm a political statement." "You're a chance for change," Rose said softly. "Our society needs it, even if many don't realize it yet." She stood up, her head nearly touching the high ceiling. "Think about it, Tom Miller. You have 7 cycles." And she added, walking to the door, "I hope you'll give me a chance to show you that not everything about this situation is terrible." After they left, Tom lay back on his oversized bed, staring at the crystal ceiling. In one day, he'd gone from simple cargo pilot to potential alien husband and political revolutionary. The fruit's sweet taste lingered in his mouth as he wondered what other surprises this green world had in store for him. 1 week to decide between marriage and death, he muttered to himself. No pressure at all. After 3 days on the green world, Tom decided to stop sulking in his room and start exploring his options. His first stop was the colony's library, where he hoped to find something useful in their laws and traditions. "You cannot access these records," the librarian told him, looking down at him with stern yellow eyes. "They are for nobles only." "He's with me." Rose's voice came from behind them. The librarian bowed immediately and stepped aside. Rose smiled at Tom. "Looking for a way out?" Tom shrugged. "Can't blame me for trying. It's not exactly fair to trap someone with a marry or die choice. Instead of being offended, Rose nodded. Come with me. I want to show you something. She led him through the crystal corridors to her personal study. The room was filled with screens showing data about Earth and other human colonies. Tom noticed his own cargo ship's flight patterns on one of them. You really did plan this whole thing, didn't you? He asked. I did, Rose admitted, but not just for marriage. She waved her hand, and the screens changed to show statistics about their society. Look at these numbers. Our population is declining. Our males are becoming less fertile with each generation. Our rigid traditions are killing us slowly. Tom studied the data. And you think bringing in human DNA will help? Not just the DNA. Rose sat down, making herself closer to his height. We need new ideas, new ways of thinking. Our society has been the same for thousands of years. We're dying because we refuse to change. Before Tom could respond, an alarm sounded through the building. Rose jumped up. The male's quarters, she said, looking worried. Something's wrong. They rushed to a large compound on the colony's outskirts. A crowd had gathered around two fighting males. Massive, muscular beings with dark green skin. Unlike the females, they seemed barely civilized. Stop this, Rose commanded, but the males ignored her. Tom watched the scene, noting how the guard seemed unsure what to do. Then he had an idea. He grabbed a nearby water hose and sprayed both fighting males. The cold water shocked them into stopping. The crowd fell silent. No one had ever seen someone handle a male fight so simply. That's brilliant, Rose whispered. We always use stun weapons, which often hurt them. This is so much better. One of the males, still dripping wet, walked over to Tom. Everyone tensed, but the male simply nodded respectfully. You think different, he said in broken speech. We watch you. Hope you stay. Back in the main building, Tom's mind was racing. Your males can talk. I thought they were just for breeding. Rose looked embarrassed. They're not as primitive as we pretend they are. Our society made them this way, keeping them isolated, treating them like animals. Some of us have tried to change things, but tradition is killing your society, Tom finished. He paced the room, thinking hard. Rose, what if there's a way to fix both our problems? My death sentence and your dying traditions. She leaned forward, interested. What do you mean? There must be some old laws we can use. Something about proving worth or challenging traditions. Every society has loopholes. Rose's eyes widened. The trials of worth. They haven't been used in centuries, but they're still in our laws. Any potential mate can prove their value through 3 challenges. And if I pass, you would earn the right to make your own choice, Rose said excitedly. And more importantly, you'd prove that outsiders can be worthy. It could change everything. Tom smiled for the first time in days. Now that's more like it. Much better than just sitting around waiting for execution. Rose touched his shoulder gently. Tom, you should know. The trials are dangerous. Some have died attempting them. Well, he said with a grin, beats certain death by execution, doesn't it? Plus, he added more seriously, I think your society is worth fighting for. Even if I don't stay, maybe I can help make things better. Rose's emerald eyes shone with hope. We'll start preparing tomorrow. You'll need training. First, Tom said, I need you to tell me everything about these trials. Everything. No more secrets. The training room echoed with the sound of Tom hitting the floor for the 10th time that morning. His body ached, but he got back up, facing his instructor, a tall female warrior named Storm. Again, Storm commanded, you must learn to use your smaller size as an advantage. Our warriors will expect strength. Show them cleverness instead. Tom wiped sweat from his forehead and took his stance again. This time, when Storm charged, he ducked low and used her momentum to flip her. She landed with a surprised grunt. Better, she said. actually smiling. Much better. Rose watched from the sidelines, making notes on her tablet. Over the past few days, she had been teaching Tom everything about the 3 trials he would face. The first was combat, the second was wisdom, and the third, she hadn't told him about the third yet. "That's enough combat training for today," Rose announced. "We need to study the ancient texts." Tom groaned but followed her to the library. His muscles screamed in protest as he sat down. "You know," he said, "when I became a cargo pilot, I didn't expect to end up studying alien philosophy and learning how to fight." Rose placed an old crystal tablet in front of him. "Life is full of surprises. Look at this passage about the last trial of Worth. It was 300 years ago." As Tom read, he noticed something interesting. "Wait a minute. It says here the challenger can request a change in the trial format if they can prove it violates their basic rights." "Yes," Rose said carefully, "but no one has ever succeeded in changing a trial." Tom grinned. "No one ever tried using human rights laws, did they? Your people signed the Galactic Sentient Rights Treaty 50 years ago, right?" Rose's eyes widened. "How did you know that?" "I read it in your database yesterday. Article 7 specifically prohibits trial by combat if the species have significantly different physical capabilities." "Tom," Rose exclaimed, "that's brilliant. You're using our own laws against us, but in a legal way." Their excitement was interrupted by Leaf rushing into the library. "Rose, the male representatives want to speak with Tom. They're at the garden gates." Rose tensed. "That's not allowed. Males can't request meetings with nobles or their guests." "Maybe it's time to break a few more rules," Tom suggested. "These traditions won't change themselves." Minutes later, they stood in the garden. 3 male representatives waited there, better dressed and more well-spoken than the ones Tom had seen fighting. "We watch you train," the leader said, his speech careful but clear. "You fight different. Think different. Show them we can be more than what they think." Tom looked at these males, seeing intelligence in their eyes that society had tried to suppress. "You're not what they say you are you? You're pretending to be less." The male nodded. "Must hide smart. They fear smart males. But you can show them new way." Rose stood silent, watching this exchange with mixed emotions. Her whole life, she'd been taught that males were simple creatures. But here they were, showing wisdom and planning she never expected. "I'll make you a deal," Tom said to the males. "Help me prepare for the trials. Teach me about your strength. In return, I'll show everyone exactly what you can do, what you've always been able to do." The males agreed eagerly. As they left, Rose touched Tom's arm. "You're changing everything," she said softly. "The council won't like this." "Good," Tom replied. "From what I've seen, they need a wake-up call." "But Rose," he turned to face her, "you still haven't told me about the third trial." Rose looked away. "Because it's the most dangerous. It's called the Trial of Spirit. It uses our ancient technology to link minds. If you fail, you could lose yourself completely." Tom felt a chill run down his spine. Combat he could handle. Wisdom he could study for. But linking minds with alien technology, that was a whole new level of risk. "When were you planning to tell me this?" he asked quietly. "When you were too invested to back out," she admitted honestly. "I'm sorry, Tom. I'm still learning to break bad habits." Tom sighed. "Well, at least you're honest about being dishonest. Come on, let's get back to training. Apparently, I need to prepare my mind as well as my body." The day of the trials arrived with the planet's 3 suns creating a rare purple dawn. Tom stood in the preparation chamber, wearing ceremonial armor modified for his human size. The past week had been intense, combat training with both Storm and the male representatives, endless study of laws and traditions, and meditation to prepare for the mind-linking trial. "It's time," Rose said, entering the chamber. She looked different today, wearing the full regalia of a future chieftain. "The entire colony has gathered to watch." Even representatives from other settlements have arrived. No pressure, Tom muttered, adjusting his armor. Just the future of an entire society resting on whether a human cargo pilot can pass their ancient trials. The main arena was massive, carved from living crystal that pulsed with soft light. Thousands of green-skinned aliens filled the seats. Tom noticed a separate section where the males sat, segregated from the females, but watching intently. High Chieftain Crystal Mountain stood from her throne. Today we witnessed the trials of worth, not performed in 3 centuries. Tom Miller of Earth seeks to prove his worth through our ancient traditions. The crowd murmured. Many had opposed allowing an outsider to attempt the trials, but ancient law was clear. Any chosen mate could try. The first trial is combat, the High Chieftain announced. The challenger must defeat 3 warriors in succession. Tom's first opponent stepped forward. A giant, even by their standards. He remembered Storm's training, used their size against them. The battle began. Tom dodged the warrior's powerful but slow strikes, using his smaller size and quicker movements to tire her out. When she charged, he sidestepped and used her momentum to send her crashing down, just as he practiced. The crowd gasped. The males in their section started cheering. The second warrior was faster, but Tom had trained with the males in secret. He knew how to handle strength greater than his own. Using a combination of human martial arts and their own fighting styles, he managed to force a submission. The third warrior proved the hardest. She was both strong and smart, nearly catching Tom several times. The battle lasted almost an hour. Tom's muscles burned, but he remembered what was at stake. When she attacked high, he went low, sweeping her legs and pinning her in a hold the males had taught him. The combat trial is past, the High Chieftain announced, trying to hide her surprise. Rose beamed with pride, but Tom knew the hardest parts were still to come. The second trial is wisdom, the High Chieftain continued. Answer 3 riddles from our ancient texts. The first riddle was about their planet's cycles. Tom had studied this extensively. The second tested his knowledge of their traditions, which he learned through countless hours in the library. The third riddle made him pause. What grows stronger by breaking its own laws? Tom thought carefully, then smiled. A society, he answered clearly. When laws become chains rather than supports, breaking them leads to growth and renewal. A shocked silence fell over the arena. That answer challenged centuries of their rigid traditions. The wisdom trial is past, the High Chieftain declared, though her voice carried a note of concern. Rose stepped forward. Mother, before the third trial, I invoke the right of challenge modification. Murmurs swept through the crowd. Tom and Rose had planned this carefully. Under the Galactic Sentient Rights Treaty, Article 7, Rose continued, we cannot force a member of another species to undergo mental linking without proper safety protocols. I propose an alternative third trial. The High Chieftain frowned. What alternative? Let him speak, Rose said. Let him share his vision for our future. Let all judge if his words show true worth. The council huddled together, discussing frantically. Finally, the High Chieftain spoke. The request is granted. Prepare yourself, Earth human. You will address the entire colony tonight. As the crowd dispersed, Tom released a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. That was the easy part, he said to Rose. Now I just have to convince your entire society to change centuries of tradition. Rose touched his arm gently. You've already started changing them. They just don't realize it yet. In the male section, the representatives nodded in approval. The real challenge was about to begin. The great crystal hall glowed with the light of 1,000 bioluminescent flowers. Every member of the colony had gathered to hear Tom's speech. Females in the front, males in the back, and the High Council seated on their elevated platform. Tom stood on the speaker's platform, his heart pounding. Your society, he began, his voice carrying through the perfect acoustics of the hall, reminds me of my ship's engine. Confused murmurs rippled through the crowd. Even Rose looked surprised. This wasn't the speech they had practiced. When I first landed here, My engine was broken, but it wasn't really broken. It was sabotage. Tom smiled at Rose, who blushed a darker green. Just like my engine, your society isn't broken. It's just been adjusted to run in a way that's not natural. He pointed to the mail section. Look at your mails. Really look at them. They solved complex mathematical problems to help me train. They developed new fighting techniques to teach me. Does that sound like simple breeding stock to you? The crowd shifted uncomfortably. Several council members frowned. And look at your females, Tom continued. So strong, so capable, yet bound by traditions that force them to threaten death over marriage. Is that the mark of a truly strong society? One of the male representatives stood up, an action that caused gasps throughout the hall. But before the guards could react, he spoke with perfect clarity. We hide our wisdom. We play dumb. We do this to survive. But we are your brothers, your sons. We can be more. The High Chieftain rose, her face stern. This is highly irregular. Yes, Tom interrupted. It is irregular. Just like a human attempting your trials. Just like your daughter choosing an outsider. Just like using an ancient treaty to change those trials. Sometimes irregular is exactly what we need. Rose stepped forward. Mother, remember what Father used to say before he died. A tree that cannot bend will break in the storm. The High Chieftain's expression softened at the mention of her late mate. Tom pressed on. I spent time with your males. They're not violent by nature. They're violent because you keep them caged. I studied your history. You once had a balanced society, before fear and tradition divided you. He walked to the center of the platform. You don't need to force people to marry under threat of death. You don't need to keep half your population suppressed. Look what Rose and I accomplished together as equals. We changed your ancient trials. We found legal ways to challenge traditions. We showed that cooperation is stronger than coercion. The hall had fallen completely silent. I stand before you, having passed your trials of combat and wisdom. But the true test isn't about proving myself worthy of marriage. It's about proving that change is possible. That tradition can adapt without breaking. That strength comes in many forms. Tom turned to face the High Council directly. Your population is declining. Your males are growing more rebellious. Your youngest members are questioning your ways. You can either adapt and grow stronger, or cling to tradition and watch your society crumble. One of the oldest council members stood up. And what would you suggest, human? Start small, Tom replied. Let the males attend council meetings. Allow them to educate themselves openly. Stop the death threats for rejected proposals. Create a council that includes both male and female voices. Rose stepped up beside him. And let love grow naturally, without coercion, like it did for me and Tom. The words slipped out before she could stop them. The hall erupted in shocked whispers. The High Chieftain raised her hand for silence. You speak of love, daughter. Rose stood tall. Yes, mother. What started as a calculated choice became something real. Something that grew not from tradition or obligation, but from respect and understanding. Tom took her hand, ignoring the gasps from the crowd. That's the final truth I want to share. Real change, like real love, can't be forced. It has to be chosen. The High Chieftain stood silently for a long moment, looking at their joined hands. The entire colony held its breath, waiting for her response. The silence in the crystal hall stretched for what felt like hours. Then the High Chieftain did something no one had ever seen before. She laughed. The sound echoed through the hall, bouncing off the crystal walls. My late mate, she said, wiping tears from her eyes, told me before he died that one day, someone would come who would turn our world upside down. I didn't expect it to be a small, pink-skinned cargo pilot from Earth. The tension in the hall broke. Several people laughed nervously. My daughter chose well, the High Chieftain continued. Not because you passed our trials, Tom Miller, but because you dared to challenge them. Because you saw what we had forgotten. That strength comes in many forms. She turned to address the entire hall. The human has passed all trials, including this final test of spirit, not through mind-linking, but through honest words that touched our hearts. The High Chieftain raised her hand. As my first act in response to this challenge, I hereby abolish the death penalty for rejected marriage proposals. The crowd erupted in cheers. Several young females hugged each other in relief. Furthermore, she continued, I appoint a new council to include both male and female representatives, tasked with reviewing and updating our laws. In the male section, the representatives stood tall, pride showing on their faces for the first time in generations. And finally, the High Chieftain's voice softened as she looked at Tom and Rose. I give my blessing not because of tradition, but because I see true love between you. Tom turned to Rose. So I've passed the trials. I have the right to choose now. Rose's emerald eyes showed a hint of worry. And what do you choose? Tom grinned. Well, my cargo ship's still broken, thanks to someone's meddling. The crowd chuckled. And it looks like your world could use a human perspective while you're making all these changes. Plus, he squeezed her hand. I hear the future chieftain needs a mate who can think for himself. Rose's face lit up with joy. She lifted Tom off his feet in a hug that nearly crushed his ribs. Easy there, he gasped. Human bones, remember. The celebration that followed lasted for 3 days. The marriage ceremony was unlike any in their history. Held in the open air where males and females mingled freely, Tom wore a modified version of their traditional mate's garments, though they had to be significantly shortened. On the 3rd day, as the celebration was winding down, Tom found himself in the garden with the High Chieftain. You know, she said, looking at the sunset, when Rose first told me her plan to capture a human mate, I thought she was crazy. But she saw something I didn't. Our society needed an outsider's perspective. To be fair, Tom replied, I thought you were all crazy at first too. Threatening death over a marriage proposal isn't the best first impression. The High Chieftain laughed again. It was becoming a more common sound. Perhaps not. But it brought you here, and now everything is changing. The males attended their first council meeting today. They spoke with wisdom and insight that shamed many of us. Change isn't always easy, Tom said, but it's better than dying slowly under the weight of tradition. Rose found them there, taking Tom's hand. The Cargo Ship Pilots Guild just responded to our message. They're interested in establishing a regular trade route to our world. Good, Tom smiled. More chances for cultural exchange. Maybe some more humans will find themselves some tall green partners. As long as they're not forced into it, Rose added with a wink. As they walked back to the celebration, Tom looked up at the green-tinted moons rising in the purple sky. 1 month ago, he'd been a simple cargo pilot making routine deliveries. Now he was helping to reshape an entire society, and he had found love in the most unexpected place. You know, he said to Rose, for a forced marriage, this didn't turn out so bad. Rose leaned down and kissed him softly. Who said anything about forced? I chose you, remember? I just had to be a little creative in getting you to land. Creative. Tom laughed. Is that what we're calling spacecraft sabotage now? Above them, the stars twinkled, promising new adventures for this most unusual couple and their changing world.